So when I started the Our Kids, Our Schools podcast, my whole purpose was I want to talk about school communities because I want to hear what people are doing in their school communities to make a difference. And I want to get information out to parents so that it can be helpful to them and to, taxpayers and school employees, all of those different things. Like all of those things were running through my mind when I started Our Kids, Our Schools. And so when I heard about you guys, like this Boise-based parents group that was doing something, I was like, I want to be a part of that conversation. And then after I heard your message, I thought, I want you guys to come on my podcast because you're parents who care, who are involved, and who are doing something. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Alexa.
You're welcome. So please introduce yourselves. Yeah.
Do you want to go? Okay. I'm Tara Coffland, and we live in Southeast Boise, and I have a 7th grade daughter and a 4th grade daughter.
Awesome.
Yeah. So we've been in Boise about 5.5 years. We moved from Seattle.
Okay. And how's it been?
It's been great. It's wonderful. A lot less rainy than Seattle.
You're right.
Yes.
It's a lot less rainy in Boise. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So
great community. Lots of outdoor activities.
Mm-hmm.
That's wonderful.
So that means you've got an elementary school and a middle school or junior high.
Junior high.
Boise does the junior high thing. Mm-hmm.
Yes. 13 years old just last week. Ooh. We are now in the teenager phase.
You are officially in the Welcome to the group. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, welcome, Tara.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Kim, you're up.
My name is Kim Washington.
Will you scoot a little bit closer? There you go.
My name is Kim Washington, and I have a 4th and 6th grader, and we live in the North End right now. And we moved here about 11 and a half years ago, and fell in love with the community, and of course brought family members here.
Yes.
But it's been amazing. We've been really happy here.
And so that means that your kids are still just in elementary school, right?
Yes.
Okay. So just so everyone's on the same page, the Boise School District runs their schools from K through 6. Then they have junior high 7, 8, 9. And then they do their senior highs 10, 11, 12.
Yes.
Yeah. And there's still several around the state that do that. But I feel like that's less. We're seeing less and less of that. But anyways, that's how Boise does it. So, okay, you guys are parents that care. You've started this group. This is why we're here to talk about this today. And your group is called YouMeWeAll, right?
Right. The full name is Youth Mental Wellness Alliance, but we know that's a mouthful. And Tara and a few of the other parents found this amazing little nickname, which we love. So YouMeWeAll.
I love it. And how did this start? Like, tell me how you guys got together. How did this start?
So last November, the district had 4 students who died by suicide, and it was very traumatic for our community. And one of our parents in our neighborhood and friend circle of mine, Jen Pierce, she's a BSU professor, got 6 of us together and said, what can we do to help our kids? Our kids need support, and our schools need support, and teachers need support. What can we do? So 6 of us sat together, and we created and identified 4 areas we felt like we could help support both our kids and our schools. And those are appropriate use of technology, and that includes both decreasing phone use, specifically smartphones, but also all phones in school. So we're promoting phone-free campuses in primary and secondary schools. It also includes educational technology, decreasing the amount of use that our kids are using in schools, and also just having the district be a lot more intentional with how they're using technology, and also hopefully eliminating any harmful content that they're exposed to. And then the second initiative, upstream suicide prevention. And we are working with the district right now, and we have a wonderful collaboration, especially with Jason Shanks, who is the supervisor of counseling, and then Andrea Garrity, who's the supervisor of social work, and they have been incredible. And we're working with them as well as a few other parents. One is Samia McCall, and her daughter Mesa was one of the students who died by suicide in November. And she and James, her husband, have been incredible. They're also really big advocates for our neurodivergent youth in our community and trying to get more awareness out there. Stacy Saricati is another parent. I can go into more detail, but we have been working with the district on helping create a more comprehensive suicide prevention policy and procedures. And it is going amazingly well. And once this is done, this will be the best policy and procedures in the state of Idaho, if not the region. It's probably one of the few, if not the only, policies that identify neurodivergent youth as a high-risk student kind of group in the policy. So there's a lot of amazing work being done, and we're so thankful for the district. The third is the transitioning to recommended school start times. And Rami Rasmus, as well as Anya Irwin, are the two parents working on this. And there has been so much medical research for years showing that later school starts help, especially secondary students. And right now, that is not happening in our school districts, and it's affecting their physical and mental health. We have so many experts in our community that have been asking for this, and the district is now open to talking about this, and they understand why it's important. However, they want to make sure it's done right. So Anya and Rami, as well as Jason Hutchinson, are working on ways to, if this can be done, doing it in a very strategic and smooth way. So they're working on that. They've also signed BSU on to help do surveys as well as help create kind of logistical plans for the district and give them options. And then they can present that to the district, hopefully in the spring, and then see if that's possible to make that change. The last is meaningful learning and connections in the outdoors. And Jennifer Pierce and Gillian Wigglesworth are both of the parents working on this area and trying. When COVID came, a lot of the outdoor learning opportunities left the schools. So there's also a lot of research being done on that, or that have been done on that, to show the benefits of getting kids outside, getting them in nature, having more outdoor experiences to help their mental well-being. So they are working with, Miss Ward, Allie Ward, who's also phenomenal. And just to say, we've been working with Nick Smith, who's the current deputy superintendent of the school district. He's working on phone-free, won't say phone-free, working on phone policies within the schools. They acknowledge that they see the harm and the distractions, but they need to move slowly. There's a lot of voices that they need to consider. They have a very large district. So we're moving slowly. And in January, I'm sharing all this right now. I'm so sorry. Is this okay?
Oh, yeah, please go. Awesome.
So in January, do you want to share? Do you want to share the pilot program with Fairmont Junior High as well as Hillside?
Yeah. So starting, the Boise School District kind of wanted to start looking at different policies, and starting enacting this year, they actually, all secondary schools, excuse me, have created a policy for cell phones within their schools. So not using them, I mean, pretty much before it was up to the school and sometimes just up to the teachers. And this year it started that not during school time, like during the instructional period, they are not to use their cell phones. So they've kind of started small, and then they want to evaluate how those policies work. One junior high school, Fairmont Junior High, has actually been leading the charge within the Boise School District. And they have had incredible results, but they have done no cell phones from the first bell of the day to the last bell of the day. The phones are away, whether they're put in lockers or their backpacks, they're just not seen. And one of the staff members at Fairmont has said, like, it feels like the 90s again. Like, kids are socializing. They don't have that distraction of cell phones during school. So they're kind of piloting that program in terms of cell phones are away. We don't see them. There is another junior high school, Hillside Junior High, that wants to start this January 2025, with the Yonder pouches. And so then the school district will look at, okay, how did this policy go? How did this policy go? Should we enact a policy for the whole district? And what would that look like?
So really quick, what is a Yonder pouch?
A yonder pouch is like a neoprene material that is magnetically locked. So when the students come in, they're responsible for their own little pouches, and they would put in their cell phones, and depending on the policy, also like smartwatches or earbuds. And they put those in, and they magnetically lock, and they can carry them with them all day. They're responsible for their own items, but they don't have access to their personal electronic devices throughout the entire school day.
And
then they unlock them at the end of the day.
Right,
so they do get to take them home.
They do get to take them
Yes.
home. And so that is a benefit versus just putting them in a locker because your school doesn't have a locker or they don't want kids at all. Like, I mean, tell me about that component.
Yeah, it really, what Kim and I have learned in this process is that there's not really one size that fits all for every single school. Like every school is different, whether it's leadership, the amount of staff members that they have, the amount of students that they have at the schools. There's a lot of different options, and it's really finding what works best for the school. So Fairmont has been able to enact a cell phone policy virtually free to just put them away. This is the policy. We don't see them. If we see them, here's the consequences. Other schools have been considering yonder pouches just for the fact of, hey, it takes it out of our hands. It takes it out of the teacher's hands. The policy is those are in the yonder pouches. We don't see them.
Mm-hmm.
So there's lots of options.
Yes. So I was talking with a friend in Kentucky, actually. She's an educator over there. And I asked her, like, what does she think has been the most successful? Because she's seen, cell phone, like when you talk about doing it differently, right? So you're saying, there are some schools that are pulling it the entire day. Mm-hmm. And then you've got some schools that are just saying, we're just going to do it during instruction time, right? So you can get it in the hallway or you can get it at lunch. So I asked her, I was like, what do you see to be the best, what has the best outcomes? And her perspective is it's gone all day. Mm-hmm. Like they don't see it all day long. And it's interesting because as you were talking, I was thinking about my kids. So my kids go to the West Ada School District, and like at my daughter's middle school, you don't see cell phones at all. Like they're in their locker all day long, right? They don't get to see them. Whereas at the high school, they had a totally different policy, right? Before it used to be like just teacher to teacher kind of a deal, if teachers wanted to do that. And now they've moved into, hey, these need to be away during instructional time unless there's a stricter policy at that school. And so I've noticed, I know that my kids are actually appreciating on the high school level that cell phones, the requirement is that they're away, because my kids are showing up in the classroom and they're thinking, I actually want to be here to learn. Like I want my fellow students to participate with me, and the cell phone is a distraction. And there was just there's a new documentary out. I think it's called Social Studies on FX. I haven't seen it yet. And now I can't remember if this is that one or if there's another clip that I saw, because this is, this topic is now, nationwide. And they basically asked the students, like, do you want your cell phones? And they're just like, no, but we need them because this is how everyone communicates. And this sucks. Like, we hate it. Like, we don't like it, and some people, some of the students, I would say, like, some of them like it, right? But like, there is something important about there's something essential about having that human connection, and for kids just to be told it goes away. Mm-hmm. Right? Like having that expectation. So like, bravo for you guys, bravo on that one. Like, yay, that's like so awesome. So you guys are this Boise-based group who are looking for community solutions to help the growing need for youth mental health awareness, right? In your schools and in your communities. Like that's, Kim, that's basically said what you when you started. And so there's things that I love about this, right? Like it's this grassroots effort with parents. They're noticing a need and you're speaking up on that behalf. So first of all, like, way to go. That's so cool.
Well, it takes a village. So there's a lot of other people.
Can I fill in one thing I forgot to mention of kind of how we got started is once we decided on those 4 initiatives, we set a deadline to create a letter by Valentine's Day of 2024 to write to the district that we wanted to create committees to address these and how can we help support them. And so we have this letter called Valentine's Day letter. We wrote it, we circulated among parents in our community, and we had almost 300 parents sign on. And then we went ahead and sent it to the district. And the district immediately responded and wanted to have meeting with us. And since then, we've had many meetings and have been able to have meetings like continuing almost like working groups with each of these initiatives, which has been incredible. I will say that I feel having all the parents sign on helped us get those meetings. We had so many parents reach out to us as we were circling this letter saying, I thought I was the only one. I had been telling this to my principal about technology use or later school start times, or I contacted the district and they said nothing can be done. And so many people saying, thank you so much. We wanted to know we weren't alone. And now we feel more hopeful that we can work with the district. We can make changes. So that is, I think, what really motivated us to form a group, because we realized we needed to be a voice for a lot of these parents. And then I see us also almost like a conduit between the parent community, family community of Boise, as well as the schools in the school district. And just as a caveat, this is meant for anybody. It's not just the school district, the Boise School District. It's for any parent who wants to work with their schools or wants to learn more about this information. So we're working with a couple of parents at Answer. We're working with a couple of parents at Sage International School and doing some of this work with them. Sorry, I just wanted to fill that in.
That's really important. And I mean, I was just having a conversation with a friend and we were talking about this idea that, to your point, parents often feel like alone or isolated when they're not connected to a bigger group that's addressing something that they're experiencing. And it doesn't feel good as a parent to think, am I the only one who sees this? And I don't hear other parents talking about this. And, and then as our kids get older into middle school and high school, it's like they experience things that are like challenging and also private to them. So how much do I say, right? There's just all of these different components of, what you're talking about. And so this is where like what you're doing in your local area is so valuable. And then what I feel like, and we had kind of like talked about before, where the state, like where Idaho PTA on this like statewide level, as the president, I'm hearing all these things from people and I'm hearing from parents, tech is like one of our number one issues, right? And so on this state level, like we want to work with our legislators to create laws that help our school communities, right? And but that often those things can't happen unless parents are having those conversations, right? And so you guys partnering with associations or organizations that are going to make an even bigger splash, like on a statewide level, is so important. But what the work that you guys are doing right now is so valuable because you're working through the process of policy creation, right? Like we need that on our local level to see and understand how that can be diffused around the state, and there's different ways that can be used. So anyways, like my brain just like goes as you like her, and I just like love it. So let's dive into some of your initiatives because I think they're really cool what you're doing and people are talking about, and how how people can get involved in your Boise area, and then what people can do in other areas, right? In their school communities to make a difference. So let's talk about, I actually wanted to start with your transitioning to school start times, because admittedly, when I was a school board member in Lewiston, I had gone to a national PTA convention. And while I was there, this was like several years ago, so maybe like 2016 or something, 17. It doesn't matter. Sometimes I feel like an old person, like trying to get the year right, So, so I'm at this I'm at this national convention and I hear a state president come up. She's from South Carolina, and she is not only the state PTA president for South Carolina, but she's also a school board member for her local school district. And the national PTA, one of the proposals for support for legislation was student start times, like school start times. And she described why she felt national PTA should support this initiative, because in her local school district, they had run a pilot program where one elementary, middle, and high school changed their start times to the recommended start times based on research. And when they did that, they ran it for a year. And she said, when that was over, those administrators in those schools, particularly the high school, came to us and said, we don't care what you do in other schools. We want you to know that you cannot change the start times from like going forward. We love that our start time was changed. This has deeply impacted the student and staff experience. Do whatever you want the rest of the district.
Working from this.
Don't chase us.
We love this new start time because it spoke about like how students are showing up like with better attitudes, right? They're doing better on their tests and in their homework. And then we also know, like, based on like brain development, all these different kinds of things, that students, like kids, when they reach those teenage years, we always say like, oh, you need to go to bed. You need to go to bed. Well, their development doesn't allow them to do that, right? Their brain development is so that their body's not getting tired until like 11 or midnight, right? That's when they're going to bed. So anyways, it was I talked to her afterwards, and it was really cool, and what they were doing over there. And I thought, gosh, I really want that in Lewiston. I really want that. And it is, as you guys know, it's hard to like make change when we've always done it this way. That's just hard. And so tell me what this is looking like for you guys in the Boise School District. Like, what are the conversations like for start times?
Well, I will say we are not the leaders of this group. So Rami Rasmus and Anya Irwin are the ones doing the 90% of this work. But what I can tell you and share with you is what they've shared with us is that they are having regular conversations with Jason Hutchinson, who is one of the administrators with the district. They've talked a few times with Nick Smith, the deputy superintendent. The conversations are needing to find ways to make the busing happen, being able logistically, how do you change the whole district, their busing schedule? And do they need to add more buses to make that work? That's an extra cost. I think there's a lot of different solutions. And so that is where we are waiting for the Boise State University professor that's going to get involved. I think he starts the end of November to start doing this work, to start creating surveys and then start creating a plan on this. The busing, from my understanding, is the number one barrier for the district. There are parents that are concerned about athletics. That's something that comes up. If you start school later, what happens to athletics that typically start at 2:30? Will they move those athletics earlier in the day? So does that kind of counterproductive? And through Rami's and Anya's research, they found that it ends up working out very well, and it doesn't end up being as big of an issue as people think, very similar to phone-free schools. They are pushing are hoping that a district member there is a national conference in November that is run by I think it's called Start School Later, if I have that correctly. They're the national largest organization that helps communities transition to the recommended school start times. And at this, I think it's a 1 or 2 day conference. They bring in experts in the nation, in the U.S., superintendents, any administrators either who are interested in making this change or have made this change. And it's a way for them to talk amongst each other to show that this is possible. And so I think you're right. I think schools get very used to, this is how we've done it. This is going to be too hard of a change. But then when they begin to start to talk to other administrators, they realize actually it ends up being better than they could have imagined. And it's just being willing to take that step.
So, and help me understand, because I hear this, and it's the thing that like doesn't make sense to me when they say busing seems to be our biggest barrier. But when I think about busing and schedules, I feel like the busing schedule is based on when school start times are. So if school start times changed, why is it so challenging then I'm not saying it's not a challenge to move the busing around, but why do they describe that as a barrier when school start times were, A, B, and C? And so then we said, oh, if our school start times are A, B, and C, then we're going to put in our buses here, here, and here. Does that make sense?
It does. I think with at least the Boise School District, again, to my understanding, that it's not just substituting. A lot of the elementary schools are staggered with their starts, I think similar to the high school. So there's a lot of different start times.
Yeah.
And so I think I wish Rami and Anya were here.
Yeah. I guess from my perspective, I'm a little bit more like, I don't want to hear from a school district that it's a barrier. I would rather hear that it's like a challenge.
I agree.
Or a bump in the road. But
I
you know
agree.
what? This is something that we can overcome because
I agree.
at some point we made these schedules.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It does. So one thing that what we want our community and anybody in any community to know is the more you educate yourself on why this is important, and then you start talking to your school district, start talking to your friends, families with kids at your school, the more this will likely happen. The district with anything, I would say 9 times out of 10, they need to know that parents support them. That is why things are slow. So when they see the majority of parents that support, that say, no, we want these times changed, what can we do to help you? They will move faster, similar to phone-free schools. They will move faster if they know the majority of parents support them, and teachers. But that is the number one thing they told us, at least with phone-free schools.
Mm-hmm. And there is overwhelming research too for those recommended start times. Like Dr. Anya Irwin, she's a sleep physician. Like she has tons of research that shows why these are recommended. And like you said, like it's like you get into a pattern and it's like, well, this is how it's always been. Well, let's look at the mental health for the kids and for the students. And if this would help improve so that their circadian rhythms that are, changing, so they get more sleep and so school starts later, then let's look at it as a challenge and let's try and find a way to make it work.
Yeah.
And something we've done with our website and we've tried to work really hard at is making it a resource for local and national communities. So if you go to our website and you click on the initiative, you're going to see the best resources that we've found with we've done lots of work and reaching out to different communities that have also done this work. And we've tried to use the organizations, the strategies, and put them under each of these initiatives. So all people have to do is, rather than go off and do, okay, let me Google search about recommended school start times, go to our website. We have cherry picked the best ones. Go to our website, learn about it, learn what our goals are. We have little action item lists, but educate yourself as a parent, start talking to your schools.
And we should say our website because it's YouMeWeAll Boise.org.
No, the website, well, that's the email.
So we're getting confused. That one is the email. Okay, so it's YouMeWeAll.org. Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
But I mean, there's tons of research, like just Anxious Generation, Screen Strong, all these different great organizations that we're like, let's put it all in one place. Because we would email each other back and forth. And we're like, we need a landing page for these so that we can go back, we can research it, we can point people in the right direction. So like Kim said, just it's a resource for everybody to use.
And then at least as far as the appropriate use of technology under that initiative, we've created little toolboxes for families or community members to go to and say, okay, how can I start a wait until 8th kind of movement in my school? And Wait Until 8th is a platform for families to make a pledge that they will delay giving their child a smartphone until at least the end of 8th grade. We say high school or later in high school, but it's the best platform out there and it's very easy to connect people. So it's a little toolkit of, hey, here's how you do it. Here are the links. Here are strategies to get other parents on board. And it's very helpful, especially in elementary schools, because right now that seems to be the best place where people are getting on board because their kids are still young. Most of them have not already received a smartphone. And similar to the educational technology section of that initiative, we also have a little toolkit and lots of resources, lots of evidence where you can print them out, share it with your school principals or your district, other families. We've really tried to bring the best research and resources together. We're also talking regularly with Smartphone Free Childhood US, which is a national organization, and they give us a lot of great ideas, and we use that as well.
So, one of the things that I think is important to note here is that, like, okay, you've got these great resources here, and a parent doesn't if there is a parent group at the school, let's say like there's a PTO or a PTA or even a booster, if the booster is the only thing there, right? Take this information to your parent group and let them know that this is important to you and how can they integrate this into what they're doing, because that parent group is not a cash box. That's not their purpose, right? I was telling you guys about this earlier. Like, the parent group is not intended to be the filler of funds for the school. That parent group is there because they care about their kids, they care about the experience of their, for their school, and they want to enrich the experience for their kids. And another component is that they stand up for the things that they care about for their kids. They advocate on that level, and that's what you guys are doing, right? And so there are going to be parents who listen and hear this and say, okay, but I don't know if there's other parents. Take this stuff to your parent group.
Right. And that's where we are like, okay, it takes a village. Like we need more villagers to help us, because we're like, okay, there's so many schools within the Boise School District. We almost envision like an ambassador at each different school, and whether not just Boise School District, but expanding beyond within the Treasure Valley to private schools, to charter schools. Like, okay, here's a contact person that we have at this school that can help spread this message, and how can we support you? So we see it as a cohesive group, just supporting the community. Because the more you talk to people, the more you realize that we're not alone as parents with these concerns, and how can we come together to make a difference?
And the one thing I really liked about the 4 initiatives is when we wrote the letter, we also had a lot of parents who were fully on board with the technology piece, but had never heard of the transitioning to recommended school start times and loved it or wanted to learn more about it, and vice versa. So having all of these different initiatives together we'll bring someone to the website to look at that, and hopefully they look at the other areas that they can also help educate themselves and make changes within their communities.
I love that. I love it when people are doing like incredible things, and I always say that on my podcast. I love that. I love it. So let's talk about appropriate technology use in schools. What does this mean? What does this component mean besides cell phones out of the classroom?
Besides cell phone out of the classroom, there's a lot. I mean, there's education technology that's, our kids are issued Chromebooks. They're given iPads in kindergarten. It's a lot of those different things. The learning apps, here's some free time, go on your device. So it's using it intentionally within schools and within the school environment. And really it's a big beast to try and figure out. And we're kind of in the midst of that, as well as the cell phone component.
Yeah. So are you two, is this the one you guys lead?
We lead the phone-free school portion, but we are a part of the educational technology piece as well. So we meet with the district with the phone-free schools initiative, and also with the educational technology. But we have 3 other parents that are working closely with us. So we have met recently with the district regarding educational technology use, and they are very accepting, and they were very responsive when we expressed our concerns, especially with the harmful content. I think right now, I would say the 2 biggest issues are overuse of screens in the schools, and also the exposure to harmful content, specifically to YouTube. The district has done a great job over the last 3 weeks. They have blocked YouTube Shorts, which has prevented students from opening very inappropriate content that was there 3 weeks prior in previous years. And since our meeting, we were able to show additional material that kids could still access even with YouTube Shorts, and luckily they responded to that and also blocked that material. One thing that is still coming up is anytime let's say I'm going to throw out a search where you type in hot yoga, and there's like other things you can do. I haven't researched this piece. And the video may be blocked, but when you type in hot yoga and you see the examples, you can click on this and click on that. They're called thumbnail shots. They're very sexual, inappropriate, and I would consider harmful content. So we shared that with the administrators, and they are trying to see what they can do. I'm not sure if they can do much about it because it is through YouTube. YouTube does offer an educational platform, but we have not found it to be guaranteeing of 0 harmful content. I think the concern that we have is, I think it's a state law that our kids, and I don't know the law name, but that our kids are not allowed to be exposed to harmful content on school devices. And it's happening. And it's not the intention of school leaders. I understand their hands are tied with the amount of educational material, our teachers, our tests, everything is tied in, especially specifically to YouTube. And I just wish something could be done. You had mentioned earlier, I wish YouTube could do something. But this is still coming through. There are 2 school districts in the U.S. that I'm aware of. There might be more. There is one in Greenville. It's Greenville County Public Schools. And then there's one in California, and their name is San Luis Coastal Unified Schools. And last year, because of what we are experiencing now, they said there is no way that we can guarantee our kids will not be exposed to harmful content. So we are going to block all of YouTube. And if teachers want to be able to use certain materials on YouTube, they need to submit that specific URL to the technology department, and they can approve that. So your student can be on their laptop. They cannot access YouTube, but they would be able to access that video. So we are working with the district to see if that's possible. Right now, it sounds like it's not. So we will continue to work with them, but something has to be done. I think parents need to speak up. We need to solve this. We have reached out to those different public school districts to see how it's going, lessons learned, to get direction. So we're still waiting to hear back. But
And so when you're talking about, like, let's just get a little bit more specific.
Sure.
So like when you say like on YouTube, and so why is this then a big deal for like a kid? What's the difference between a kid on a device and a kid in a classroom, right? So because like when I think about YouTube, I'm like, well, why can't the teacher just show the video on their screen? Why does it have to be on the computer? What are you seeing with that?
So when we've asked that of teachers. Some teachers, so just so you know, there is a small contingent of teachers that are fully support the work we're doing. They think our kids are getting I think more specifically elementary school teachers, because there's so much research out there showing that overuse of screens is affecting the physical development of our kids. But teachers in secondary, part of the curriculum that they give, some of it, the kids need to access it at home. It's homework. So that is, I don't quite remember the reason why they can't show it in class as a group. I think that's a great solution. I remember when I asked one teacher that they did kind of push a little bit back on that. But it's something that I think the hard part for me is we want to support our teachers. We don't want to make their job harder. Yeah. So how can we prevent this harmful? I don't mind YouTube. I think YouTube can be an incredible tool. I learned so much, but to allow our kids to be watching YouTube, and not every teacher is sitting and monitoring. They might try, but you can't monitor every child on YouTube, and things are being watched. There's also a different issue is distraction is a really big issue in class, where a teacher will be giving a lesson. They should be on have only one tab open. They will have multiple tabs open, the student, and be playing video games. And then when the teacher might go back to their desk or, go walk past the student, they quickly switch. But that is a very common thing as well.
Well, and it's hard too with like kids with homework too. I mean, when they take the Chromebooks home, they can open those other tabs. And so they're supposed to be doing their homework. They click to something else because we know it's addictive. I mean, we know these websites are addictive and they show you the next thing and they just go down that rabbit hole. And so it's that issue of distraction as well.
And we did bring that up to the district. They agreed that shouldn't be happening with at least the multiple tabs issue. They said the teachers were provided tools to prevent that. There are ways to lock to only a single tab, but that's not happening across the board.
Well, and that's the Go Guardian. That goes back to like the Go Guardian control, or, and when they send that out and say like, oh, Go Guardian is watching, they have that under control. It's not foolproof. Like none of these are foolproof. And it's terrifying what they can find.
I just I hear all these different things sometimes and I'm like, why do we have technology in school again? Because to something that you said, Kim, it's just this idea that okay, yes, teachers are supportive of not having the YouTube link or whatever, right? Teachers are just doing their jobs. Mm-hmm. They're teaching to the content standards, right? And then they're trying to find material that address those content standards. And they're following the law, right? They're following, meaning not that like YouTube in there is the law, but they have these standards that they're required to follow, from policy from the state. And so it's like, well, what can the state do? What can, if the teachers are required to teach this standard, then how can the state support what these standards are in a way that's going to be helpful for our Idaho kids, right? Sometimes it feels like this layered issue, and then teachers and parents are stuck with whatever is on the table, right? Like, well, we have to address this stuff now, and we have to have state testing, and we have to meet these standards, and we have to do all these things. And then the teachers are going, well, I have to make sure that I'm getting all these things done over here. And parents are going, okay, well, we have all this extra homework, and now this computer is in my house, and all these extra tabs are open, and I have to keep checking on my kid all the time. I have to be that helicopter that I never wanted to be, that I don't like to be, but now I got to keep checking, and I got to make sure that screen, okay, they can't be in their bedroom. They need to be in the kitchen. And when they're in the kitchen, their back needs to be to me so I can see the computer screen, right? There's like
I'm exhausted.
I know. I'm like, it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming.
There's just all, there's all these different things. And then you're saying like, listen, I'm a parent that cares. And I do love my public school setting. And I love my public school community school. It's awesome. But I'm trying to help solve a problem that actually someone else has decided to integrate into the school, right? And so I feel like parents, teachers, and even principals need to come together to solve these problems, and our superintendent and our school board members, because even in a local setting where we say like, well, local control, we have all these different components of local control, but the state's still mandating stuff. And quite frankly, let's take that one step further. The federal government is mandating certain things too, right? And so it's like this all these different layered things, and people need to be speaking up on all those different layers.
And you make it sound so easy. Just bring them all together. Let's solve it. We got it. Bring them all together.
But couldn't it, like, I mean, I know it sounds idyllic, but if people could just say, hey, we see this issue, let's get people together around the table who could help solve this problem. I don't think it has to be overcomplicated either. I feel like the pushback, right, and the feeling like you have to, like, oh, we always do these things and we can't do this. It's the people who are resistant to the change that make it a problem.
And there are alternative platforms that provide educational material that can address a lot of the curriculum that's being done in our classes that teachers can use. I know it's not as well known. It is there. But at a higher level, a state, a national, why isn't there another tech company, an organization, I know that's supporting tech, that will create a platform like YouTube that allows zero harmful content. If they want to bring advertisers, great, but it would have to pass the zero harmful content, policy or what have you. Like, I can't believe why are we all so, our hands are tied to YouTube.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting too, like even on a state level where we see lawmakers, they say, well, we want all of these books out of a library, right? Where kids have to like walk into that library, right? And all these different things, we want them out of the library. Listen, I don't want porn in the library either, right? Like I don't want my kids accessing that stuff. But then some of those same people refuse to do anything about the technology that kids actually have in the palm of their hands, right? Or on a school issued device or all these different things. And it's like, no, that we need to get on the same page when we're looking at this. Let's stop letting big tech control the narrative or control all these things around education. Let's make it what's best for our kids, right? Let's get on the same page as to maybe what that could look like, right? Like, and I think that like what, on a broad scheme, like I think that it would not be so hard to say what would be best for kids. Now, if we're going to get super, super specific, the three of us would probably not agree on all of the same things, right? Like, but when we're talking about some big, broad, sweeping strokes, we don't want harmful content on our computer screens for our kids. That seems like a reasonable request to be making.
Yes, no brainer.
Yeah, totally. Bless you ladies for working on that.
I do want to say one thing. So aside from us trying to work with the district on these larger issues, one thing that we as parents we're trying to also think of, what can you do as a parent? Like, how can you help your child? And I think one thing you can definitely do is contact your teacher and ask if your child not to have any screen time during their free time or during indoor recess. There are some schools where the teachers have come together in the district and said, okay, anytime we have indoor recess, we've agreed we're not going to give our kids screens. They don't need more screen time. They get enough during school. They get enough probably after school, sometimes before. They don't need it during recess. One parent said, why can't they just do Heads Up 7-Up like we did? Which is such a great point. But I would say the majority of schools, teachers, I guess it's dependent on each teacher, but, I know we have a couple teachers at our school that do still allow it, or they let the kids decide. But, I went and asked my daughter, I said, okay, I would prefer you not to use the screen during indoor recess. I love her teacher. Her teacher said, she'll give opportunities for the kids. But I asked my daughter, I said, can you please refrain? I'm not going to refrain from the screen. Again, it's that addiction, right? So I feel like it's on us, and here's where it comes on the teachers and the principals. As simple as we're going to say no to screen time during free time, right? One of the we've talked to a few parents and we would all agree with this, where kids, after they're finished with the assignments, many teachers, it's specific to elementary school, many teachers say, okay, when you're done with your assignment, you can have some free time. You can play games or what have you on your Chromebook. So kids are, maybe not everyone, but a lot of the kids are rushing through their assignments just so they can get to play their game. That's not okay, right? So that's something individually that is something else we're trying to educate parents on. Hey, you do have a voice here. You can ask for that change.
I love that. Like I said, I say it all the time. I love that when people give good things, because sometimes parents don't realize what they can speak up about, right? And Superintendent Debbie Critchfield really, she has the Parents' Bill of Rights that came out, over a year ago. And one of the reasons that she did that was just to put into writing that, like, parents, you do have a right to be in this school for these settings to make sure that things are happening for your kids, right? There's limitations. You're not the boss of the teacher, right, in the school, but there needs to be a partnership there. And parents, you can make these requests. You can ask for certain things. That's really important. And you don't have to wait until parent-teacher conferences to do that. Don't wait. Yeah. Do it today, right? Just do it today.
And that's one thing I know Kim had mentioned, like when the letter was sent out and parents were signing, and I thought I was the only one. That's one thing where a lot of parents don't have time. Like, this is so important and they care about these issues, but they don't have time. Not saying we have a lot of time, but we've found time to make it like, okay, we'll be a voice. We also have all the support of other parents as well. But there's so many people that care and that can use their voice in different ways.
Yeah, I agree. And parents are showing by signing, people do what they can, right? So it's like, yeah, sign the thing to let the school know I care about this thing, right? This is how I'm expressing my interest in being involved. And other parents can give a little bit more, and we're grateful for I always just kind of look at it like, I'm grateful for what you can give, right, for your kid. And the fact is, like, parents do care. And we just need to give them opportunities to be able to show up in the ways that they can. So let's talk about, I want to hear about this suicide policy that you guys are, working on in Boise, because that's really amazing. I mean, you talked about it at the beginning. Let's circle back to that.
Sure. So I do want to emphasize Jason Jenks, the supervisor of counseling, Andrea Garrity, the supervisor of social work, have been leaders in our efforts with this. They have been doing so much work over the last year. I know that they had started a lot of work 2 years ago, but especially over the last year with the student deaths. They've been trying to reach out to families and provide more education. I know recently they kind of created, it's a signs of suicide campaign. I think they did a phenomenal job. I think it was started 2 or 3 weeks ago in all secondary schools. They sent parents videos on, hey, this is what your kids are going to be learning about. Love that. let parents know. I do, when you had mentioned earlier about having parents be involved, I do see a benefit of kids being able to manage their time on their own and being able to do it. But this is, I mean, when it comes to mental health, we need to be a part of that. We need to learn what's happening. Let's do some carryover. Whatever they're learning in school, let's help carry it over at home. They've done such a great job. And so there came up an opportunity in June where they were revising the policy. And Sammy McCall and James McCall, whose daughter Mesa died of suicide last November, and are huge advocates in our community for suicide prevention and neurodivergent youth, let our parent group know. We already knew we wanted to work on education on suicide prevention, but they brought it to our attention about how there was a policy that was up and it needed more. So we reached out to the district, specifically Jason and Andrea, and Becca Anderson's the policy writer, and they were very open to working with us. And so we all are working collaboratively. We talked about different ways to help make it comprehensive, and Sammy and James found an amazing, it's called, I can't remember the I think it's the American Association of School Counselors, as well as the Trevor Project and another mental health organization, created a model for any school to base their suicide prevention policy on. The Idaho State Department of Education has an excellent resource on suicide prevention, and they also reference that. So using those kind of references and guides, we have all been able to work together, and it's amazing. And we've put a lot of hours into it. Jason and Andrea have put so much time into it, and they should feel so proud with the work that they're doing and that supporting this. They were recently interviewed on the CityCast, I think it's CityCast, the Boise CityCast, Hey Boise, and just trying to get more awareness on suicide prevention. But I'm so proud of this. Part of my job is I reached out to people in the U.S. Tell me about your policy. Is there any policy out there that includes neurodivergent youth? And there was none that I found. There is a school in Boulder that's trying to do more work on it, but that's where I feel so proud about this. Jason and Andrew, are so open to including it because it is an issue. We need more awareness as teachers, as fellow students, where some of these kids in school are getting bullied because of they're neurodivergent. And one thing that Samia brought to my attention that I was not aware of is when a student who is neurodivergent, and just to clarify for anybody who doesn't know what that means, it could be anything from Asperger's to autism to sensory issues. It's kind of that kind of neurologic issues that make it difficult for kids to sit in a room with a lot of noise happening, or how they might react to someone else. But the way, if a student who is neurodivergent has signs of suicide, the intervention that might be applied to a neurotypical student, so someone who doesn't have Asperger's or autism, could be very detrimental to the student that does have it. So we know that our mental health professionals likely have this training, but this training needs to be given to people in their community, in their school community, and even just our broader community. We need to know about this. I had no idea. And it was Sammy and McCall that brought this to my attention. And now we've put all these great resources that she's provided us onto our website. So that's under the upstream suicide prevention. I've learned so much as a parent just doing this work, and just having different people come to us and saying, I need help with this. I need you to help us get more awareness out there. But that's kind of, yeah. So it's just I'm just really proud and happy to be working with the district.
Kim wears many hats.
For now. We hope to get more parents involved so we can share the work. So
yeah, share the load. Yes,
Yeah.
Many hands make for light work. That's what they say, right?
Yes, that should be our slogan.
Oh, I like it. Yes.
That's awesome. And then talk to me, let's talk about this outdoor learning, like this connection with learning and outdoors.
So Allie Ward is the sustainability coordinator for the Boise School District, and she is working really hard to kind of bring those outdoor experiences in. So she has started, I think she helped create, it's called EFE. I think it's the experiential.
Environmental.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Field experience?
It might be the environmental field experiences
Thanks.
where all students in all of the schools are provided one day of, or multiple 1 days of time outdoors in different settings around the community. So that's something, one way to help introduce more outdoor learning. Another way, Jennifer Pierce or Jen Pierce had just started the first kind of all 8th grade overnight camping trip with Jake Miller, who's kind of the outdoor physical education teacher at North Junior High. And I think it was with over 300 students, and it was supposed to be awesome. But unfortunately, due to some fires, they had to postpone it. So they are looking for other opportunities. But Jen and Gillian, I mean, they're just trying to get teachers to be more open to incorporating outdoor learning opportunities. What's hard is we know it's helpful for our kids, but then they're also restrained by having to teach to a test, which is hard too. So what they often are hearing from teachers is, I'd love to do that, but I have to teach all of this material to the kids to get them ready for a test for the state or federal exams. So Jen and Gillian are trying to figure out ways, okay, how can we help support our teachers, but also do it in a way where we're getting them outside more? I don't know. Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
Okay.
I get it.
Yeah.
So by the time this episode airs, you will have had an event. Tell me about the event that's coming up, but by the time it airs, it'll be behind us.
It will be.
Yeah.
So it's coming up, but it will be behind us October 1st on Tuesday. And it's in Southeast Boise at Riverside Elementary School. And we are having a licensed counselor and national safety expert, Katie McPherson, come in from Arizona, as well as Dr. Megan Smith, professor at Boise State University and founder of Communities for Youth. And they will be talking about how to reach, teach, and support your iGeneration child. So what we've tried to do is create awareness and empower parents. Here's information. Here's how you can keep your child safe online. Here's opportunities, and bringing in these resources, just trying to generate interest within the community of people that care and that will see oh, this is really important to me, and how can I make a difference, and how can I make a difference with my child.
So then moving forward, what are your plans? Over the next couple of months, what can people expect from YouMeWeAll, right?
YouMeWeAll?
YouMeWeAll. Yes, YouMeWeAll.
Well, I would say, it feels like there's always something. It's a new day and it's oh, we should do this. We go in many different directions. We're trying to reach out and find, like we mentioned earlier, just an ambassador kind of for each school, so we could have a touch point. We hope to have another program coming up in November, and then also one in February. We are we're trying to raise funds for Yonder Pouches, just about $18,000. So we're working on that. We are officially a nonprofit. So we now have that status, which we just received this week from the IRS.
And thank you, Tara, for doing all of the paperwork on that.
That's very exciting. So, yeah. Can you think of anything else? I feel there's always stuff that we're up to.
The way I see our role is we're filling in the gaps to schools. So schools are definitely are doing great work. We want to support them in that, but there are areas where they just don't have time to or haven't seen. We're helping provide that feedback from parents, from teachers, and kind of coming together and say, okay, there's a gap here. How can we either better communicate what you're doing? So give us the information. Oh, and we can share it with the parents and teachers. Actually, they are addressing these issues, or actually providing assistance. So, for example, the phone-free campuses. So yeah, we are going to be working on that. We want to help support surveys around the phone-free pilot program with Hillside and Fairmont, so we can have data to help explain to other schools and families on why it's so important. Yeah.
So I love this flyer that you guys have. It says more social, less media in schools. That's super catchy. And I don't think you guys didn't come up with that, right? Did you come up with this?
No. So we saw it. It might have been you, Tara. Saw it online. It was on a social media, a school. So there's an amazing school district, and it's called D51 in Western Colorado, where the superintendent has helped push a district-wide phone-free campus, although high schools are allowed at lunch and breaks, but junior highs are phone-free. And they had a kind of a local nonprofit organization help raise funds for them to help with Yonder or whatever the school chose to help secure those funds. And they used more social, less media. And we thought, okay, maybe we'll do more social, less media in schools. I absolutely loved it because I feel like it applies not just to kids, it applies to parents and adults. I would like to see this as a citywide campaign. I just want to be able to walk through, downtown Boise or downtown Eagle or somewhere and see a sign that says more social, less media in schools, or just more social, less media, because it makes me think, oh yeah, maybe I'll, it kind of almost gives me an action item.
I love it. Like more schools, more social, less media, like in our schools and in our school communities.
Right.
Like that's what we need. Like I totally agree. And I feel like you guys are on like such an amazing trajectory, and I'm excited to see like what you guys are going to do in your partnerships. I know that like we're going to work on some stuff with Idaho PTA on a statewide level. When you talk about you want ambassadors at all of these schools, reach out to your PTAs and your PTOs at those schools, because I'm sure that there are parents there who would totally have that, and then they have that parent group right there to support them, right? So in using that. So what would you like people to know, like as we conclude the conversation, like what's important to you about the work that you're doing?
I think we're just all coming together and we're concerned parents that we can make a difference. Our voices matter, and that coming together as a community, like we all have the same broad issue or importance that we are facing, that we care about our kids and we care about their mental wellness. And there's so many things that are getting their attention that we want to bring back to these initiatives.
I would love if anybody in our community and anywhere else subscribe to our newsletter, went to our website. There's a little newsletter, because then you'll kind of get updates. And even though some of it's local, some of it is just we put out the most recent best podcasts about anxious generation or other really great resources. Again, it's just we've worked really hard to make it a really great resource. So sign up for our newsletter, and please share it with other people and share this message. I think that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah. And you're on Instagram and Facebook. Right?
Yes, I don't think we're on Instagram yet.
Oh, I think we are. I think we are. I just don't.
I was going to say, I see the little dot here, like on my piece of paper. Well, I'm on Instagram.
What's hard is, I think two things.
We need a social media person.
We need a social media person. I mean, I'm not normally a social media person. I started doing it, but to be honest, we have had so much work doing all of this other meeting with the district. Tara and I have been regularly starting to meet with principals in other states, tell us about like doing Zoom calls. We recently just recorded one with one of them in Colorado. Tell us about your phone-free policy and how is it going? Because we're trying to build materials for other principals in our community to be able to see and learn from those principals, because we're just trying to connect people. And so we're doing a lot of work that we haven't been able to get to.
And just like creating proposals. Like we're creating proposals for asking for a contribution towards $18,000 that we're like, well, we're going to create a proposal today. Like, what does this look like? So we've spent a lot of time on that. We do post, I know, on Facebook, kind of like upcoming events and like our most recent newsletters and stuff. And we'll figure out the Instagram info.
Well, but you must have an Instagram account.
Yeah, I think I made it.
You have an Instagram account. So when this conversation, like when we're done with this, like we'll rip some clips so you guys can post on your social media.
Amazing.
Yeah, we'll do.
Teach us.
Yeah, we'll do.
Teach us what it is.
Our social media.
Please. Such a kind question. such a kind
just
thing.
Landed in your lap.
Yeah,
here's another job.
Yeah, just another job for me. I don't know. Tack it on to my 5 other titles.
And PhD.
Yeah. Well, I love what you're doing, and I'm really excited to see like what this looks like moving forward. And I know that it's going to be, I know that's going to be awesome because there are parents behind it that care, right? And you have gotten other people involved in your community, and you're using your local, state university and your different administrators and school staff, right? You just have like collected people who care, and I think it will just continue to grow along the way. I love that there are other people in other states who are asking you guys what you're doing. For me, like, I love hearing about how Idaho is leading the way in something, right?
Yeah.
Whatever community that is in Idaho, like, hey, we in Idaho are leading the way on this thing. And so you guys are a part of that, and like, bless you for what you're doing, because it is so important. And I just know that there are other things that are going to unfold. I know that I'm really excited for the thing in February, the event that we're going to partner with you guys on that and bring in teenagers. That's going to be super fantastic. We should talk afterwards about like our day on the Hill for Idaho PTA. That's going to be Tuesday, January 21st. And this would be great content to share, because this is advocacy work. Like, at the heart of what you're doing is advocacy work, and you are speaking up on behalf of your kids, and you're talking to your administrators, and you're helping to create policy. Like, this is the golden work of a school community. Like, this is what it looks like when people show up and work together in a school community. And like this, we need more of this, like, around our state and in our nation. So thank you so much for what you're doing, and thanks for coming in today and talking about it. It was so fun to have you here.
Thank you.
Thanks we're learning so much from you. So thank you for all the work. I don't know how you do it. Like,
we should give her another job.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us.
You're welcome.